Hi everyone, welcome to today's video. So on today's video, I'm going to speak about 3-4 simple points. One is that many of you have been interested in starting your own Airbnb business. So I'm going to help you understand how exactly you can do that. Number 2, how to make your Airbnb profitable. Number 3, how to start an Airbnb business with zero money, absolute zero money. All this is based on my practical experiences. I own a lot of properties in Goa. They have been converted into Airbnb. I'm building an Airbnb resort in Goa. So I'm going to talk about that also. Why did I make that decision? So practical experience. A. B. I keep on traveling. So right now I'm in Phuket, Thailand. So I've been traveling in Southeast Asia for the last few days. I stay only at Airbnbs. Why? Because I have a family. So आसान हो जाता है थोड़ा सा खाने पीने की चीज़ें चाहिए होती हैं. I have small kids. So उनका kitchen is very important. कपड़े भी धोने होते हैं and all that stuff. So from that perspective, I really like using Airbnb myself. So I see value in it. So I will help you understand all these practical points on today's video. And I will take you through this entire story in 6-7 very simple points. So okay, point number 1 is logistically Airbnb a sensible business to start? क्या business fundamentals? Does it support that कि Airbnb की हवा चल रखी है, everyone wants to do Airbnb, sustain करेगा नहीं करेगा? So fundamentally, is Airbnb a good business? So I will speak from 2 fundamental points here. One is from my own use case. So consider this, that if you are traveling with your family, 4 members, maybe like 2 adults, 2 kids, or you might be 2 adults and with your parents, so again 4 people. So अगर इस हिसाब का हिसाब बैठा हो आप, so if you go and book a hotel room, even in Goa, then आपको 2 hotel rooms book करने पड़ेंगे and easily like depending on where you are booking it, an average hotel would cost somewhere between like 3000 के आसपास का आराम से पड़ेगा आपको. Can you do the same at 6000 at Airbnb? Yes. And the facilities, will it be better at Airbnb? Maybe. Depends on how you consider facilities to be. अगर आपको convenience चाहिए तो Airbnb में होती है, आप खुद का खाना वाना बना सकते हो. Especially if you are vegetarian, traveling to Goa, then you can सब्जी अपने लौकी तुरई टिंडे वगैरह खरीद लिया, आलू वालू बॉईल कर लिया and all that. So all those conveniences are there. And वो कपड़े अपड़े धोने का भी रहता है. So use case तो है Airbnb का. So that is one good prominent thing about Airbnb. एक वो private सी feeling भी होती है that okay you are staying in your own place. So वो commercial वाली feeling नहीं होती. So a lot of travelers prefer this and this is a very clear use case. That's A. And this is where the second angle comes into the picture, that from a business viewpoint, अगर आप खुद का Airbnb चला रहे हो, then does the math add up? So उसके मैं आपको कुछ computation बता देता हूँ. That basically होता ही है कि if you are running your own Airbnb, बहुत सारे types के models होते हैं and जैसे the model that I currently work on is that I don't run my own Airbnbs. I basically outsource it. I give it to an Airbnb manager and they manage it. Basically I have sublet my Airbnb so to say and वो मुझे पैसा देते रहते हैं महीने का, खत्म बात. वही बिजली का बिल वही भरते हैं, क्लीनिंग और बाकी सारे अरेंजमेंट्स वही लोग करते हैं. So for me the headache is close to zero. It is just that I have given them on rent. Now अब आप बोल सकते हो कि यार आप तो ये लॉन्ग टर्म पे भी दे सकते थे. See, this is where the beauty is and this is where you need to understand that from a business viewpoint, short term rentals are much more prominent, much more effective compared to long term rentals. For example, अगर आप दिल्ली मुंबई में मकान खरीदते हो and if you buy that मकान at like 2 CR something, then your rental yield will be 3%, 4% maximum, right? इससे ऊपर नहीं होगी, 3 भी नहीं होगी, 3 भी बहुत मुश्किल से होगी. So what is the meaning of rental yield? Well, in simple word it means that 2 करोड़ का आपका मकान है तो आपके साल के 3% of 2 crores will be 6 lakhs. So 6 lakhs is the rent that you will be making. So 50,000 से ऊपर आपका मकान नहीं चढ़ेगा. That is how it is. You guys can let me know in the comment box. So this is an issue with long term rentals that आपको rent जो होती है वो कम मिलती है and therefore your rental yield also goes low. But running an Airbnb touches that short term yield. So short term yield होती है कि यार आपने 1 दिन के लिए किराए पे दे दिया या 2 दिन के लिए, 3 days के लिए, 1 week के लिए, 1 month के लिए and all that. So the rental yield you make during that period is fairly high. Now of course you will say कि यार you know what अक्षत ऐसा थोड़ी होता है, जैसे गोवा में ऑन सीजन ऑफ सीजन होता है एंड कई दिन आपके मकान खाली रहते हैं वगैरह वगैरह. सो उसमें नुकसान होता होगा. Yes, definitely, but this the math that you need to understand is that on an average, this is what the industry average is, that if you have a flat on Airbnb or if you have a villa on Airbnb, then it gets rented out for roughly 200 days in a calendar year. So उस हिसाब से आप computation बैठा लो. नेट अगर आप computation करोगे, यहाँ पे मैं आपको मेजोरदा का दिखा देता हूँ. तो this is an area where I have a flat. This is the flat that I own. यहाँ पे ये चढ़ता है, इसकी एवरेज रेंट करीब निकल के आती है 4 से 5,000 के आसपास निकल के आती है. ड्यूरिंग सीजन इट्स मच हायर, ऑफ सीजन इट्स लाइक 3.5-4 के आसपास भी मिल जाता है. So from that perspective, average will come out to be somewhere like 5.5, 6 के आसपास पड़ेगा. So from that perspective, if you do like run 200-day math, so the average yearly income from this will be somewhere around 12 lakhs, right? So 12 lakhs will be the revenues, right? What the Airbnb manager will be making, and उसमें से they will be paying me my rent, right? So इस हिसाब से निकल के आता है, तो रेंट यील्ड काफ़ी अच्छी बन जाती है. अब आप बोलोगे कि आपने फ्लैट कितने पे खरीदा था, तो यार मैंने सस्ता खरीदा था, ये रहा वीडियो, आप लोग जाके देख लेना. सिमिलरली आई परचेज दिस विला इज एट अ रेंट ऑन 90,000 रुपीज़ पर मंथ. कई लोग बोलेंगे आपने तो पहले 81 बोला था. भाई वो पिछले साल की बात थी, एक साल में किराया भी बढ़ जाता है, ऑल दैट स्टफ, एसेट अप्रिसिएशन भी हो गया है. सो फ्रॉम दैट परस्पेक्टिव इफ यू रन द मैथ, इट रफली कम्स आउट टू बी 200 डेज के हिसाब से बैठा लो, ऑन एवरेज रेंट पकड़ लो. सो देयरफॉर शॉर्ट टर्म रेंटल्स आर मोर स्ट्रॉन्गर देन लॉन्ग टर्म रेंटल्स, एंड इसमें कंप्लीट आउटसोर्स मॉडल भी होता है, विच आई हैव बीन स्पीकिंग अबाउट. सो होपफुली आपको एक बेसिक आइडिया लग गया होगा. नाउ अब मैं इसको पॉइंट 2 पे बढ़ता हूँ कि पॉइंट 2 ये कि आप कितना पैसा बना सकते हो और कितना पैसा आपने लगाना पड़ेगा. दैट हाउ मच मनी कैन यू मेक बाय रनिंग Airbnb बिजनेस, एंड विल इट बी अ प्रॉफिटेबल थिंग, इज दैट समथिंग दैट आई कैन टर्न दैट इनटू अ फुल टाइम जॉब काइंड ऑफ अ सिचुएशन फॉर मी. यार अब ये सब इंडिविजुअल चीज़ें होती हैं, ज़्यादा मैं बोल नहीं सकता, बट आई विल गिव यू लाइक अ बेसिक आइडिया अराउंड इट. See, in order to buy like a decent property, at least in Goa, now of course rental market everywhere will differ. थाईलैंड में डिफरेंट है, बाली में अलग होगा, गोवा में अलग होगा, अयोध्या में अलग होगा. सो फ्रॉम दैट परस्पेक्टिव वेरी हार्ड फॉर मी टू सेट जनरल रूल्स, बट जस्ट टू गिव यू एन आइडिया ऑन रिटर्न ऑन इन्वेस्टमेंट, दिस इज व्हाट आई वुड से दैट टिपिकली अगर आप गोवा में विला खरीद रहे हो, देन इट कैन गो ऑल द वे फ्रॉम 2 CR से कम बहुत मुश्किल से हम मिलते हैं विलास, 2 CR ऑल द वे टिल 10-15 CR वाले भी होते हैं, एंड जिनकी रेंट आपकी पर डे के हिसाब से 1 लाख रुपए भी आती है. सो मैसिव मार्केट, राइट, बट लेट्स पिक समथिंग लाइक इन 2 to 3 CR रेंज विला. नाउ दीज विलास विल टिपिकली गो फॉर 10,000 रुपीज अ डे, राइट? सो दैट इज द एवरेज रेंट दैट यू कुड एक्सपेक्ट. उस हिसाब से मैथ बैठा दो, मल्टीप्लाइड बाय 20, सो 3 CR का भी आप मान लो, एंड 10,000 इज द रेंट. सो यू आर मेकिंग हाउ मच? सो यू आर मेकिंग रफली 200 multiplied by 10,000, so that gives you 20 lakh rupees a rent a year, and if you put that, compute the yield, it's a very decent healthy yield. So 6.66% के आसपास yield हो गई, right? So please note that I'm speaking about yield, I'm not speaking about underlying property appreciation. कोई भी घर होता है, जैसे for example if you buy a flat, you get rent, that is yield. On top of that, the value of that flat also typically goes up, especially if it is a good flat or good villa or good land. So that is underlying property appreciation. So if you buy a good property, put it on Airbnb, you will get rental yield which acts like a dividend, so to say, and underlying property appreciation bhi hota hai. I teach all this on my real estate course also. I am launching the next batch. In case you guys are interested in picking up right type of properties, there is an in-person Goa event that I will be doing. You can check the links in the description box for that course. The seats are likely to get filled out this week itself. So in case you are interested, do definitely reserve your spot. So I hope that this second point about ROI is clear. एक छोटा सा एडेंडम मैं आपको और दे देता हूँ कि फॉर एग्जाम्पल इफ़ यू फील कि यार मेरे पास बहुत पैसे नहीं है एंड आई कैनॉट गो एंड इन्वेस्ट लाइक 3 CR. तो पहली बात तो यार लेवरेज होती है इन रियल एस्टेट. सो लेवरेज मीन्स दैट फॉर एग्जाम्पल इफ यू हैव टू बाय 1 crore प्रॉपर्टी, you don't need to invest 1 CR right off the bat, okay? You need to invest maybe like 20% money, rest 80% can be financed through loan, जिस पे आपको कैश फ्लो मिलने लगता है. सो इफ यू बाय वेरी गुड यील्ड प्रॉपर्टी जिसमें आपके फर्स्ट मंथ से ही रेंट आने लग जाए, सो द रेंट दैट यू आर गेटिंग यू कैन यूज दैट टू ऑफसेट योर EMI, ओके? सो प्लीज रिमेंबर दिस ऑल्सो दैट देयर इज लेवरेज इन रियल एस्टेट. अ 1 crore प्रॉपर्टी कैन बी बॉट एट रफली 20 lakhs down payment and rest 80% can be financed. As long as you are buying a sensible good property, you should be okay, right? So this is part A. Part B उसे कि यार बहुत महंगा लग रहा है, 3 करोड़ कौन खरीदेगा? Flat खरीद लो. So flat that I had purchased, this was fairly less. So this was around 70 lakhs and it's giving me a fairly healthy yield. So all the numerous options are there. So it's not as if कि आपको करोड़ों लगाने हैं types. With a decent amount of saving, you can start your Airbnb game. Which brings us to the third point कि अच्छा यार अब खरीदनी ही नहीं है मुझे. Tell me some like model where I don't have to put in any of my money and I can get all the honey, right? So is there a model at play? So ठीक है, तो 3 मॉडल्स होते हैं Airbnb में. First is that you buy, build, operate. So for example, I am doing this. So I am buying a land, I will build on it and I plan on operating it, okay? So this is buy, build and operate. Now this requires a level of expertise in terms of buying the land, doing due diligence, access to financing, दुनिया भर की चीज़ें. This require higher level of experience, expertise. That's part A. आसान नहीं होता लैंड खरीदना. neither I am going to paint such a picture. That's part A. I hope that all of you understand this point. उसके बाद भी there are a bunch of related things. For example कि आप कैश फ्लो कैसे मैनेज करोगे, आप बिजनेस कैसे मैनेज करोगे, हाउ विल यू मैनेज लिस्टिंग, हाउ विल यू हायर स्टाफ, हाउ विल यू मैनेज योर प्रॉपर्टी वगैरह वगैरह. So this is a complicated model. Unless you are living in Goa or a place where you own the Airbnb, I would not recommend this buy, build and operate model. Second model is called as buy and operate or buy and lease model, right? Now here what you do is that, see, if you like a villa in a society, you say, yaar, is pe Airbnb kar leta hu. For example, this villa is in a society, it is on Airbnb. This was the first Goa property that I purchased. Now this is in a society, so you can simply go and buy it. If you are getting a good deal, you buy it. Now then what you can do, you can operate it yourself, कि आप खुद ही listing कर रहे हो, खुद ही customer management कर रहे हो, दुनिया भर की चीज़ें. Otherwise you can go and hire a Airbnb management company. Sometimes you can give it to the builder itself, and the builder, when they are building such projects, they will say कि यार, you know, हमसे करा लो Airbnb भी, we will charge like 20% commission, something like this. So standard commission कुछ होता नहीं है. Typically it is around like 20% that they charge. So depending on which area you are buying, all that stuff. So all those points need to be taken care of. This is the second model. The third model is do not buy, just operate, right? So what this means is that, for example, you say कि यार मेरे पास पैसे वैसे नहीं है ज़्यादा, I cannot invest like lakhs, but I want to get into Airbnb game. I want to test it out. So for example, I have some properties that are lying, right? Idle, right? कुछ नहीं हो रहा उस पे, फालतू पड़ी हुई है. So you will come to me, you will say कि यार Akshat, I know the Goa market, I am very good at customer management, I have worked in hospitality, this is my Airbnb plan, what I plan to do. मैं अच्छी अच्छी चीज़ें कर दूंगा, बहुत बढ़िया आपके रिव्यूज़ वगैरह आएंगे. Give it to me, I will manage your Airbnb. Here is the monthly fixed rent you can take from me. Now see, ये थर्ड मॉडल एग्जीक्यूट करने के लिए you require two things. ऐसा नहीं कि आप फ्री फोकट में कर सकते हो काम, because you will still need to put in your security deposit जो 2-3 महीने का एटलीस्ट होगा. Bunch of other different things are there. All that stuff is there. Okay, so it's not free. That's what I want to communicate. But definitely this is low capital. That's part A. Part B. And more importantly here is that you must understand, or at least when आपको math बताई थी कि 200 day rent होता है, you should be good at probably making it like 250 days, right? Because that is what your alpha will be. कि यार देखो मार्केट में मैं तो सोच के चलूंगा कि यार अक्षर डज इट, यार अब मेरे पास इतना टाइम नहीं है कि मैं बैठ के ऑप्टिमाइज करता रहूँ कि कहाँ से मेरी बुकिंग्स आई हैं ऑल दैट स्टफ. 200 दिन के हिसाब से मैं अपनी मैथ बैठा लूंगा एंड यू नो आई विल बी हैप्पी इफ आई गेट 200 days worth of rent. Whatever you make above that, that is the actual alpha that you are generating for yourself. अब 50 days के हिसाब से देख लो that from one villa, right? If the average price, जैसे इस विला का average rent will be 10,000 a day. So 50 additional days if you are able to generate, you are making how much? You are making 5 lakhs of additional income from one villa, right? So if you can do with 5 villas or 10 villas, that's substantial income that you can generate, no doubt about that. It depends on your ability to market and bunch of other different things कि आपके repeat customers कितने हैं, कितने लोग खुश होते हैं वगैरह वगैरह. So all those things are there. Are you into hospitality management? Do you know customer care? All that stuff. So वो छोटे छोटे से points होंगे. आपका network strong होना चाहिए. So अब next question आता है कि अच्छा चलो यार, you know all this is great. I would love to start my Airbnb business. कहाँ grow start, right? So okay, first and foremost thing is that you should start where short-term rental market is there. For example, if you try to do this in Delhi, short-term rental market है? No. Okay, so that's little bit problematic. If you do it in Lonavala, if you do it in some other good location, Goa, Shimla, all these are good locations according to me जहाँ पे अच्छा खासा tourism होता है. So that is there. You can definitely pick that. That's point one. Point two, you should have some kind of competitive advantage. Now competitive advantage means कि भाई आप property खरीद के बैठ गए, आप property lease करके बैठ गए, right? And supply पे supply आती जा रही है, right? I mean builder बनाते चले जा रहे हैं, लंबी लंबी building, like 200 माले की बिल्डिंग बना दी उनने. What sense would it make, right? For you to buy such a property, there will be over supply of Airbnbs and yeah, it will just be bad for you. So pick locations where you think that supply is not going to come up like massively, okay? Or creating supply in that location is going to be difficult. So those are the locations that you should typically pick. थोड़ा सा आपको दिमाग लगाना पड़ेगा कि कौन सी हो सकती है वो locations. Third related point, that you should target markets where premium customers go, right? Now I'm not trying to start like a political debate or religious debate here. For example, right now in Ayodhya, lot of builders are just यार फालतू फंड, मतलब इतने ज़्यादा रेट पे आपको प्रॉपर्टी बेच रहे हैं हद से ज़्यादा, राइट? फॉर एग्जाम्पल 1 square feet of land in Ayodhya by one of the builder is getting sold for 16,000 rupees per square feet. This is crazy price, right? इतनी मेट्रोज में भी नहीं होती, बिक रही है. अब भाई if you go and invest in such properties, ultimately you will have to charge much higher rates, right? Because you will have to ask for a much higher differential in terms of when you are renting it out on short term. That becomes a problem. It will be extremely difficult for you to rent out or command such very high rents, especially on religious circuits. आप जाके सर्च मार सकते हो, go on Ayodhya Airbnb so to say, and देख लो कि कितने पे typically लोग rent a place. So you will not find it to be very very expensive. So I don't think that there will be a premium segment customer base which will go to these type of locations. That's my personal opinion. Of course I can be wrong. Now it's your call, but I'm just sharing one concept with. Okay, so the next point comes regarding some of the finer points that people miss in terms of running Airbnb. So the first key point is the licensing requirement. At least licenses are required in Goa. Many people run Airbnbs illegally. वो आपके लिए problematic है, because if for example you are renting your property to strangers, that is what happens on Airbnb, and उन्होंने कुछ कांड कर दिया, right, कि हमें पीट दिया किसी को आके, right, हमें दारू पी के हल्ला मचा दिया and all that stuff, police will come after you, right? So please take licenses. There is basic licensing fee. I have taken licenses. If you are the owner of the property, you need to have license. Do it. Okay, so it's not going to cost you a bomb. It requires very minimal investment, so to say, and it has to be done. So please do it. A. B. Please check where you are buying that property. Does that society allows you to do Airbnb? एक गुड़गांव के अंकल मेरे पीछे पड़े रहते हैं कि इसके Airbnb बंद हो जाएंगे, ये मत करना, वो मत करना. भाई, how much money have you invested in Goa? Why are you giving me gyan? I fail to understand. People have all the opinions in the world. Ask them how much money have you invested in Goa? The answer is zero, right? So anyways, coming back to the topic, let's see guys. Basically, these are due diligence points that you can pick up easily, right? Go and speak in the society that is Airbnb allowed or not. How difficult is it to figure it out? If it is allowed, what is the clause? What does the minutes of the meeting of society meeting जो होगी वो क्या कहता है? How is the society registration works? What is the outlook? ये दुनिया भर की चीज़ें आप चेक कर सकते हो. Don't buy it in a society where Airbnb is not allowed, and then someone comes after you, it becomes a problem, right? So I hope that you get this basic point. Here local rules will apply. For example, the rules in Goa might be very different from how something is being structured in Noida or Gurgaon. So you have to pick again accordingly. The third point here comes around taxation, that okay, how does Airbnb taxation comes into the picture? See, this will be your business income. Now the thing is that you might think, yaar, meri bahut income ho rahi hai, so I might be taxed at 30%. Maybe, maybe not. If it's a separate business, then आप दुनिया भर के खर्चे उस बिजनेस पे दिखा सकते हो. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, टेक्निकली आई एम राइट नाउ ट्रैवलिंग. नाउ दिस इज माई Airbnb expense, right? I am legitimately coming here, observing other Airbnbs, booking my fees, learning more about Airbnb business, all that stuff, researching about different markets, whether I should be picking more Airbnbs, maybe international expansion करना चाहिए कि नहीं. So all this will be business expense, right? So please understand that aspect also, that yes, it will be taxed at your slab, so to say, but this can, some of the expenses can be offset as a part of that expense of the business, right? So that is another important point, but please अपने CAVA से consult कर लेना. Now comes the final point. In fact बहुत सारे point हैं, but I am just recapping very important points here. Now comes the final point, that यार मैं गोवा में रहता नहीं हूँ, but I want to buy Airbnb. Is it something that I could do? Yes. Okay. All the facilities are there. It's not as if that you have to stay in Goa to manage one Airbnb. No, nothing like this. You have to build a system around it. No doubt about that. And there is enough help that you can seek in case you are buying the right type of property. Then comes the sixth and final point from my side, that how good is Goa Airbnb market? Is it going to boom, not boom? गुड़गांव में कर ले, पुणे में कर ले, वगैरह वगैरह. See guys, I am not here to start a debate or start a fight. Buy wherever you want to buy a property. All I am simply telling you are basic logical points. That see, short term rentals में ज़्यादा return होता है compared to long term rentals. That's a fact. It's not just me saying it. You can apply your brain and figure out why that is the case. That is the more important point. Second key point, that if for example there is no way for you to manage your Airbnb in Goa, आपको कुछ नहीं पता, आपको ना सीखना है. Yeah, so then don't come, right? There is just no point in debating that. Buy something in your own city. But having said this, wherever you get an opportunity to do short term rentals, your rental yield will be higher. जो underlying property appreciation होता है वो तो यार कहीं पे कितना भी हो सकता है, that is not given. But typically speaking, if your rental yield itself is 5-6%, then underlying property appreciation will be 4 to 5% any place. So काफ़ी अच्छा return हो जाता है from that perspective. Therefore, I like the Goa market from an Airbnb point of view. Now, before keyboard warriors jump in and say, इतना थोड़ी मिलता है return, या 2% 3% मिलता है, this is what we get in like Mumbai 2%, 3%, Delhi 2%, 3%. Again, you're speaking about long-term rental market. I am speaking about short-term rental markets. Completely different thing. It is like you saying कि यार, you know what, cricket में किसी का 120 का स्ट्राइक रेट थोड़ी होता है. भाई IPL देख लो, उसमें तो होता है ना लोगों का 120 का स्ट्राइक रेट. सो इट्स कंप्लीटली डिफरेंट थिंग्स दैट वी आर स्पीकिंग अबाउट. So you have to think from that. So okay, so final segment, I'll have Preksha just teach you very quickly about some of her experience of managing my Airbnbs. What are some points that she would share from her journey, and then we'll close out the video. Again, a humble appeal that in case you are interested in learning more systematically about real estate investing, you can check the links in the description and comment box regarding my new course launch, and you can avail a seat. It's going to be a live program where we will create a community of investors as well, and you guys can meet each other, learn from each other, and it will be an exciting learning experience. So over to Preksha, and then we'll close out the video.
Hi guys. So I've been managing Akshat's this property since the last year and it's been a journey. Before we listed this property on Airbnb or before we put it out for short-term rental, the first thing that we did was get the Goa tourism license. This is the legal pre-requirement to run short-term rental business in Goa or if you want to run Airbnb on your property. Now after we got the license, we prepared the property, put in basic furniture, took care of the things that guests might need, filled it with toiletries, towels, etc. Now when it comes to listing, on Airbnb, the process is quite straightforward. You have to create an account as a host. There is an option to put a property as listing. There you fill in your property details, put in some pictures. Verification from your end would also be required. And after all this is done, the property is listed. A tip here from my side would be to focus on good quality pictures because first impression matters. When a guest is scrolling through to book their stay, they will first look at the pictures and then click on your listing to know more about the property. Now since we have listed, we have made close to 4 lakhs as profit. That is after deduction of all expenses, paying of bills, taking care of repairs, etc. This is in a period of approximately 5 months. Now, some key lessons that I learned in this journey of running an Airbnb in Goa. First is to do things the legal way. For example, in Goa, we require a tourism license to run short-term business on any property. Similarly, in other states, the laws may differ. But I would always advise to do things the legal way to avoid any kind of future trouble that might come up. You're going to interact with different guests. You're going to have different people in your property. And if something goes sideways, then if you're doing things legally, you will have nothing to worry about and it will save you tons of headaches. Second, please do market research and understand the scope of your Airbnb returns. In short term, the daily rental will depend on the location of your property plus its demand. If your property is in an isolated location and the tourist footfall there is not much, then the daily rental will also be not high. Thus, the ROI on Airbnb differs from property to property. Understand your location, look at other similar kinds of property as yours in the same or nearby locations. Ask locals how the tourists there are, how much are they willing to pay, and then you will understand it better. A side tip here would be when you're running your Airbnb, try to distinguish your property from other ones in your area. That can be done if you're providing a unique service or you're giving a better price than the other hosts. Third and most important in my opinion, reviews matter and do not be shy in asking for it. When a guest check out, do not hesitate to ask them for good reviews or feedback of your property. Airbnb organically promotes those properties which have good reviews and that you get when you provide your guests with good experience. And the best way to do so, in my personal experience, has been to put yourself in your guest's shoes. That is, treat your Airbnb property as a house where you are going to live in. This way you'll understand what requirements are to be fulfilled, what are the gaps there, what amenities can improve your stay, can improve the experience and make your guests more comfortable. Now before I close out my part, an additional bonus tip for all the newcomers in this Airbnb game: focus on cleanliness and hygiene for your guests. It doesn't matter if you have a 1 BHK, 2 BHK, a villa, a penthouse. Your guests would care about the hygiene of your property more than whether it has direct beach access or not. So these are the points that I learned and I really hope that they help you.